You ever walk into a room and feel like the walls already know your name? Like the shadows have been waiting for you? Most people laugh when they hear stories about haunted houses, until the house decides to laugh back, until something in the dark decides to whisper, until something decides to follow. If you're easily scared, don't listen to this alone. If you think ghosts aren't real, you'll change your mind before this is over. A bathroom, and inside this particular bathroom, down a short hallway on the second floor, past a crooked picture frame, and beneath a ceiling light that flickers for no reason, there is a toilet. A toilet that has driven guests from the house screaming. A toilet the owner refuses to repair, refuses to touch, refuses even to look at. This haunted toilet, this cursed, whispering, shuddering thing, is not just a fixture in a bathroom. It's a doorway, a hungry one. So sit back, take a deep breath, and remember, don't listen to this alone. The story starts from here. The woman who opened the door looked as if she had been waiting right behind it. Her eyes were too focused, too alert, as if she'd been listening to his every step on the gravel outside. "You must be Daniel," she said. Her voice was pleasant, but her expression never warmed with her tone. She stepped aside and motioned him in. The foyer smelled faintly of lavender and something metallic beneath it. The air felt heavy inside, thicker than outside somehow. "You are staying upstairs, second room on the right," she said. "Bathroom's at the end of the hall." Daniel nodded, lifting his suitcase. "Thank you. Looks like a quiet place." At that, her expression twitched. Not a smile, not a frown. Something sharper and gone too quickly to read. "It's quiet," she said. "Just don't use the bathroom too late at night." He blinked. "Sorry?" "Plumbing's old," she said quickly, too quickly. "Pipes make noise. It can wake the other guests." She did not mention the toilet. She did not mention the warnings taped under the sink. She did not mention what had happened to the last guest. Daniel thanked her again and climbed the staircase. As he reached the top step, he noticed a framed photograph hanging crookedly on the wall. It pictured the house in perfect condition. Fresh paint, bright windows, the porch swing new and straight. But there was something else. A small shadow in an upstairs window. A silhouette. A figure, maybe. It was impossible to tell. The glass glare hid the details. He adjusted the frame out of instinct. Immediately, the house groaned loudly, as though unhappy with the correction. He pulled his hand back sharply. What the hell? He found his room, simple, clean, with an old quilt folded neatly at the foot of the bed. The window rattled softly, although the air outside was still. The only light switch flickered when he tested it. Then he noticed the bathroom down the hall. The door stood ajar, just enough for darkness to pool outward like spilled ink. As he watched, the door shifted very slightly, just a nudge, and a faint, hollow sound drifted from inside. A drip, another, and then something else. A soft scraping, like fingernails dragging along porcelain. He shook his head. Old pipes, bad plumbing. The caretaker warned you. Still, the sound crawled under his skin. He decided to unpack and get dinner from the small dining room downstairs before thinking too much. After a simple meal and some polite but curt conversation with the caretaker, who kept glancing up the stairs as if expecting someone to appear, he retreated back to his room for the night. That's when he first heard the whisper. He was brushing his teeth, head leaning over the sink, when he froze mid-movement. His toothbrush hovered in the air. Behind him, from the hallway, something muttered, a low, choking whisper. He turned off the sink and strained to listen. The house fell silent. Then, gurgle, scrape, thump. It came again, unmistakable, from the bathroom at the end of the hall. Daniel stepped out of his room, the hallway dim. The light above the bathroom flickered with a sad, stuttering pulse. As he approached, the air grew colder. So cold his breath fogged slightly. "What is going on with these pipes?" he muttered. He pushed the bathroom door open. Inside, the small room smelled of bleach and old mildew. The sink was spotless. The shower curtain hung stiffly, but the toilet, white porcelain dulled to a sickly yellow, sat in the corner like something trying to pretend it was normal. The lid was closed, but it rattled, very softly. Tap, 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 like something was knocking from the inside. Daniel stepped back. Nope, no. He reached for the door handle to shut it, but the toilet lid rose suddenly, just an inch, then fell again. His heart slammed into his ribs. Rats? Air pressure? Some kind of mechanical issue? But toilets don't open themselves. He backed away, closed the bathroom door firmly, and returned to his room. He barely slept. Every hour he woke to new sounds. Water sloshing, scraping metal, a faint exhale like something surfacing. And once, near dawn, he heard something worse. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps from the hallway. He sat up, holding his breath. The footsteps moved toward his door, stopped, and then he heard it. A wet drip, then another. Something was leaking onto the floor outside his room. He forced himself not to look. He couldn't. If he opened his eyes fully, if he caught even the faintest glimpse under the gap of the door, he feared he would see a shadow crouched there, something waiting for him to move. He stayed frozen until sunrise. The next morning, the caretaker greeted him with a stiffness that suggested she already knew he'd had a rough night. She poured his coffee without meeting his eyes. "Sleep okay?" she asked. "I didn't," he admitted. "I think your bathroom has something wrong with the plumbing. The toilet lid keeps..." She slammed the pot down so hard coffee splashed out. "Don't talk about it," she snapped. Daniel stared. Her breathing had quickened. Her hands shook. "You don't understand," she whispered. "Ignoring it keeps it quiet. Acknowledging it makes it stronger." His mouth dried. "Makes what stronger?" But she refused to speak another word. By afternoon, Daniel was convinced he had imagined the worst of it. Exhaustion can create hallucinations. Stress can turn normal sounds into monsters. He told himself the house was old, the caretaker odd, and the bathroom cursed only by faulty pipes. As daylight faded again, he started to relax, until he opened the door to his room and saw the footprints, wet footprints, leading from the hallway to the bathroom. Not human footprints, too long, too narrow, with drag marks behind each one, as if claws had scraped the floor. And worse, the footprints didn't lead out of the bathroom. They led into it, as though something had crawled back inside the toilet. He stood frozen, stomach churning. Then he realized something else. The sound, a faint, muffled sound from the bathroom, crying. Someone, or something, was weeping inside. He stepped forward, cautious, breath tight. Each footfall felt like walking toward a cliff edge. He reached the bathroom door, placed a shaking hand on it, and listened. Sob, sob. It sounded human. It sounded terrified. "Hello?" he whispered. No answer. He pushed the door open. The bathroom was empty, perfectly clean, silent. The toilet lid was closed, but now a thin line of water trickled down the porcelain, like tears. He felt the house shift behind him. The air grew dense again, heavy, expectant, and before he could move, the toilet lid slammed upward, hitting the tank with a violent crack. Something inside the bowl moved, something long, something pale, something rising. Daniel stumbled backward, fell against the wall, and scrambled into the hallway just as a wet, gray hand, long-fingered, swollen, mottled, reached up from the dark water. A voice gurgled through the drain. "Don't leave me alone again." Daniel slammed his bedroom door shut behind him, chest heaving, palms slick with sweat. The house groaned in response, as if the walls themselves had flinched at what crawled from the toilet. The whisper from the bathroom echoed through the hall, thin and watery. "Don't leave me." But the voice wasn't a threat. It sounded desperate, pleading. That made it worse. Daniel backed away from the door, feeling every hair on his arms rise. His heartbeat thundered in his ears, drowning out the faint sounds of dripping water
and shifting floorboards. Whatever he had seen, whatever had risen from the toilet, was something between life and death, something stuck, trapped, suffering. He grabbed his backpack, stuffed his belongings inside without folding anything, and headed for the stairs. He didn't intend to stay another minute, but halfway down, the caretaker stepped into view from the bottom step, as if she had been waiting for him. Her eyes were wide, panicked, and exhausted, eyes that had seen too much for too long. "Ah, you saw it," she said. Daniel stopped, breath catching. "I don't know what I saw, but I'm leaving." "You can't," she whispered. He stared at her. "Watch me." She shook her head slowly. "Not can't as in permission." Her voice dropped. "Can't as in the house won't let you." And then he heard it, a low rumbling from beneath the floorboards. The house's exhale again, heavy, troubled. Something shifted under the stairs. The caretaker's voice trembled. "It knows you saw it. Now it's attached." "Attached?" Daniel whispered. "What does that even mean?" She stepped closer. "It's not a ghost the way people think. It's not haunting the toilet. The toilet is just the only opening it can reach through. It's trapped in the house, under it, inside its bones, wrapped into the plumbing like veins." She swallowed hard. "And when it senses someone who listens, someone who hears it, it tries to pull them in." Daniel felt the temperature drop. A cold draft drifted up the staircase, as though something were crawling toward them from below. "It wasn't trying to attack you," the caretaker said. "It wants help, but it doesn't understand how to ask for it anymore." Daniel backed up toward the wall. "What is it?" Her face tightened. "A guest, from a long time ago."
She brought him into the kitchen, where a single bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering with each heartbeat of the house. She poured tea with trembling hands. Daniel didn't drink. She began. "A family owned this house many years ago. A mother and her little boy. The boy would play in the halls, running up and down, always laughing. But the house sits on land that shouldn't have been touched. The pipes were laid through ground that was wrong, too wet, too deep. The workers used shortcuts, cheap metal, poor ceiling, and something in the ground seeped into them." She gripped the table tightly. "One night, the boy went missing. The mother searched everywhere, every closet, every stairwell, every room. She heard dripping. She followed it to the bathroom, and she found the boy's toy floating in the toilet bowl." Daniel's heart dropped. She lifted the lid. She leaned over, and she saw her son's hand reaching up through the water, as if from the other side. The caretaker's voice cracked. She reached for him. She tried to pull him out, but he was already too far down, dragged through the pipes. They say she could hear him calling for her, echoing through the plumbing. They say she stayed in that bathroom for days, talking to the drains, begging him to come back. The house creaked, long, sorrowful, like mourning. The mother died here. The boy didn't. Not completely. His voice got tangled in the pipes, in the house's water line. Over the decades, it twisted. His cries became scratching, then knocking, then something else. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. The wet footprints he'd seen, the crying from the toilet, the hand. "How do I get rid of it?" Daniel whispered. The caretaker looked up, eyes tired. "You don't. You free it. Free it." The words shouldn't have made sense, but somehow they did. The boy, if it truly had once been a boy, had been trapped for years, maybe generations, lost in the echoing maze of pipes beneath the house. Daniel stood. "Show me the basement." The caretaker paled. "No one goes down there." "That thing already reached into my room," Daniel said. "It's not stopping. If I don't end this, either it will pull me in, or it'll keep suffering forever." The caretaker hesitated, then nodded, defeated. She handed him an old brass key, cold to the touch. The basement door sat at the far end of a narrow hallway. The moment Daniel unlocked it, a wet gust of air washed over him, thick with mildew, rust, and something older, something mournful. He descended into darkness. The wooden steps groaned. The air grew colder. Water droplets echoed from unseen corners. And somewhere beneath him, deeper than the basement should logically go, came a soft, rhythmic thump. A heartbeat. No, not his. Something else's. At the bottom, Daniel clicked on the single hanging bulb.
A faint yellow glow illuminated a sprawling network of pipes, far too many for one house. They ran through the walls, floor, ceiling, intertwining like roots strangling the structure. The caretaker whispered beside him, "This is where he calls from." A thin stream of water dripped from one of the central pipes. Each drop landed with an almost delicate echo. Then, from the pipe above them, tap, tap, tap. The same knock Daniel had heard from the toilet. He stepped toward it. The metal shuddered at his touch, freezing cold. And then he heard it clearly. "Help! Me!" A child's voice. Warped, hollow, distant, but unmistakably a child. Daniel's throat tightened. "I hear you." The dripping stopped. Silence stretched. Then a sudden rush of water surged violently through the pipes, rattling the entire basement. The caretaker grabbed onto a beam to steady herself. "It's reacting to you," she shouted over the growing rumble. "Be careful!" The pipes bulged, warped, trembled, and then one of them cracked open, not with force, but like a wound splitting. From the jagged tear, water poured out. Not clear water, but murky, swirling as if alive. A shape formed beneath the surface. Small, hunched, trembling. A boy's silhouette. Daniel knelt, ignoring the freezing water soaking his knees. "I'm here," he said softly. "I see you." The silhouette twitched, attempting to rise, but the shadows pulled it back. "Are you stuck?" Daniel whispered. The shape nodded. Slow, painful, desperate. "How do I free you?" The boy raised an arm. A pale hand reached out, not monstrous now, but small, thin, trembling. He pointed to the pipes, to the house's heart, to the place he was trapped. Daniel hesitated only a moment before nodding. "I'll do it." He grabbed a rusted wrench from a shelf. The caretaker gasped. "If you break the wrong line..."
"I know," he said. "But if I don't," he looked at the boy, "he'll never stop suffering." With each twist of the wrench, the pipes shrieked. Water spewed across the basement floor. The house groaned, shuddered, protested. The silhouette in the water flinched, then brightened, glowing faintly, growing clearer. Daniel worked feverishly, loosening section after section, undoing decades of cold metal that held the spirit hostage. The caretaker cried out as the ceiling trembled. The boy's voice grew stronger. "Almost free." Another twist. The house shuddered violently. The light bulb flickered out. Darkness swallowed everything, and then the pipes burst. The water line ruptured in a roar, sending a wave through the basement. Daniel shielded his face, bracing for impact, but the wave didn't hit him. It swept around him. Warm, gentle, like a hug. A child's voice whispered beside his ear, "Thank you." The water receded. When Daniel opened his eyes, the basement was silent. The pipes no longer hummed with misery. The cold air had lifted, replaced by stillness, and in the center of the floor, for the briefest moment, stood the silhouette of a small boy, clear, peaceful, no longer twisted by pain. He smiled, a soft, grateful smile. Then he faded, dissolving into the air like mist in sunlight. Gone, free. Upstairs, the house felt lighter, brighter. The oppressive weight that had pressed on every wall was gone. The caretaker stepped out from behind Daniel, tears streaming down her face. "You did it," she whispered. "After all these years, you freed him." Daniel looked toward the bathroom down the hall. The door hung open gently, and for the first time since he'd arrived, silence filled the room. True silence. No dripping, no scraping, no whispers, just peace. He walked to the bathroom door, rested a hand on the frame, and whispered, "Rest now." The silence answered him, soft, warm, grateful. That night he slept deeply for the first time in months. No footsteps in the hall, no wet marks on the floor, no knocking from the toilet. The house breathed, not the heavy, sorrowful exhale from before, but a long overdue sigh of relief. When Daniel left in the morning, the caretaker stood on the porch, hands clasped tightly. "Thank you," she said. "You didn't just free him, you freed this house." Daniel nodded. He just needed someone to listen. The caretaker smiled, a real smile this time, gentle and warm. "Safe travels," she said. As Daniel drove away down the tree-lined road, sunlight streamed through the branches. The guest house grew smaller in his rearview mirror, looking peaceful in a way it probably hadn't in decades. He felt no fear, only calm, only closure, only peace. And somewhere far behind him, in a house reborn into quiet, a boy finally slept.